Now that the dust has somewhat settled from Thrones of Decay, we can take a look at Dwarfs in a more holistic sense. Obviously, the Thunder Barge is still not quite been brought into balance, where it is usable in multiplayer settings. Once that's done, I think the Dwarfs will actually increase in power level again, even though that unit does need nerfs and will get nerfed. And it's kind of odd, like decreasing the power level of a unit would increase the power level of a faction, but that's where we're at because it's just not usable right now, right? So, in terms of what the Dwarves can bring, they've definitely got a lot of some very solid options for them. The Slayer heroes have actually had a lot bigger of an impact, maybe than I initially anticipated, but quite cheap and good. The Slayer Lord as well is the one actually brought here today for this tournament replay. This one's from a couple weeks ago between Leon Jang and Gotrek Starbreaker. Gotrek coming in hot here with the Dwarfs. He's got Rangers. Excuse me, nice and cheap. Miners with blasting charges, regular miners out on the flanks, Thanes, rather than the Slayer heroes, which is interesting. I mean, the Slayer hero is not that much more expensive, and I would think would probably be better here. He is facing against Demons of Chaos, so I would also question the gyro pick a little bit, just because you pretty much know Furies are coming in this matchup because of how good they are right now, especially against Demons of Chaos, who can take a whole rainbow set of Furies, which we do see here. Some Slaanesh Furies, a couple of Khornes out on the flanks, with Exalted Lord of Change also up in the sky here. Another Fury of Khorne, another Fury of Slaanesh. So, yeah, of course, this guy also has access to Portal Glyph, which will give you 2 additional units of Furies. So, definitely investing heavily to try and take out Gyros. And I would suggest instead a unit you don't see used super often. I'm not exactly sure why. I think they're actually really good in a lot of situations, but the Trollhammer Torpedo Iron Drakes, not only are they basically immune to fire missile damage, fire magic damage, I should say, which of course blue fire is, which is definitely going to be a prevalent danger here. Their high armor also makes them somewhat impervious to Fury attacks, although you definitely have to watch out for like the Slaanesh Furies with their armor piercing, right? They've got really good range now and very fast missile speeds. So they can actually shoot some flying units fairly effectively, like this Exalted Lord of Change here. You know, if they were like a Soul Grinder or something. Now, granted, Soul Grinder can outrange them. It seems Soul Grinder can, but still, could maybe hide them in the woods here to get some cover, come out later. We'll also outrange another kind of interesting tech piece here that you don't see super often. This Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch out here on the flank is going to be quite dangerous against Dwarfs. 150 range is pretty good, but again, will get outranged by those Iron Drakes. We've also got some Demonettes here, Blues, and Plague Bearers as the main line here, with Blues on the flanks. Plague Bearer is going to be quite tanky. We'll be able to trade into, you know, Dwarf Warriors and Miners with blasting charges just fine. Obviously, a big part of this is going to come down to the Furies versus Gyros. Some of these Gyros are Brimstone guns, which are going to try and roast out the Furies to help save their fellow Gyros, but honestly, the best thing to do here would be to hard land and try and just fight in melee with some of these Dwarven ground troops. Yeah, there weren't a lot of Slayers brought here, only Brothers of Grimnir, Brotherhood of Grimnir, even Doomseekers, which are going to absolutely shred the Furies they get into contact with, since they are anti-infantry, and Furies do count as infantry. The rest of the Furies are going to come in here mostly unopposed and get on these backline units. We see a nice AoE damage spell going off for Tzeentch as well. The Infernal Gateway opening up, doing some really nice damage to those Bugman's Rangers, who, again, more expensive than the regular Rangers. I would say, again, Gotrek being a Dwarf main, I'm not sure I'm the right person to build suggestions to him, but I just posit this for your thinking, and if Gotrek ends up watching this video, maybe he can let us know down in the comments below. But I would probably go, again, sort of noting the danger of Furies here, would probably go with Quarrelers and maybe like a Grudge Raker or something, just because they have the extra armor, and that's going to help significantly against, again, any non-Slaanesh Furies. Even against the Slaanesh Furies, it also helps somewhat. I mean, the Bugman's Rangers do have charge defense, and, you know, they self-heal and everything, but when they take so much burst damage as we saw there, not able to survive. But that said, the Dwarfs are able to kind of defend this line somewhat. Some of the Gyros do survive that big engagement and are able to continue firing a little bit here, but there's so much Fury pressure in this build as it is designed, and that is working out just fine. The one Demonette here on this flank starting to run out of steam a little bit, as they're just kind of overwhelmed by Dwarven numbers. But the Plague Bearers are slowly but surely grinding through the front line, having eaten some blasting charges as well, getting in against those miners. A Brotherhood of Grimnir can only be in so many places at once, So you see them trying to defend this back line against the foul Plague Bears. And Deadly Big Bird, the Exalted Lord of Change, coming in to mess up these Orange Rangers. Wow, looks a little odd in that orange color scheme, but the Thane's there to attempt to defend, but really isn't going to be doing a whole lot here. It's another reason why I would say, you know, taking the Slayer heroes is going to be beneficial. You are likely to see a big scary Demon Lord in this matchup. Maybe not always. Maybe sometimes you see the little cheap Zinch boy as well, but I don't know. I think this guy in particular, stats are great. Exalted Lord of Change, right? Stats are good enough. Armor piercing damage, terror, flying. One of the best animation sets in the game, like since Warhammer 1. And now they just can fly as well, which is awesome. Portal Glyph is one of the best items in the game right now as well, because Furies are insane. Yeah, I would expect Furies to get nerfed in the upcoming patch. We should be seeing a patch sometime within the next couple weeks, I would guess. Back when they announced Karnak, they said he was coming with, what is it, 5.1, and the 5.1 should be coming within a few weeks of then, so I would expect now we're getting close to the time frame where we should see an announcement on that patch. Hopefully Furies get a little bit of a nerf, as is warranted. They're a little bit too strong, although I don't think they should go back to necessarily to their previous power level. They were a little bit too weak then. Something as a nice middle ground in between, but the Brotherhood of Grimnir and these miners surge forward to fight. They're going to face another Infernal Gateway. This Lord of Change has been feasting value the entire time between that and Blue Fire. Slowly but surely working his way up. This Exalted Flamer as well. I haven't highlighted it too much, but you've probably seen it there. Gets some nasty volleys into the back of some blobs. Just absolutely detonating multiple troops there. We see a similar... Yeah, even getting some good damage on those single entities as well, on the Thane and the Demon Slayer there. But with the Glorious Death active, Demon Slayers, or the Brotherhood of Grimnir, can't die. They're going to continue fighting until their bitter end. There's the Thane charges on to Exalted Flamer. Wow, some gyros still alive somehow, too. Credit to Gottrek's micro here, being able to keep these guys just moving the entire time. As he passes over units, they're going to get some shots and have used up some of their ammunition. Probably still haven't paid for themselves, but hasn't been completely terrible. What is completely terrible, though, is the time these miners are having against the Exalted Lord of Change as he comes in for a rear charge. They had been pursuing those blues fairly well. Getting some good damage there. But the Dwarven heroes are really going to have to be their saving grace at this point. Basically, the rest of the army just needs to do as much damage as they possibly can. While that's going, Brotherhood of Grimnir going to charge in. They get the Rune of Ungni. Wow, significantly increases their weapon strength. Hammer of Karak draws on the Plague Bears, just debuff them, and those Brotherhood of Grimnir are just going crazy while taking pretty much no damage in return. Able to eat that unit up for free. That's decent. But just eliminating these Plague Bears slowly but surely is definitely going to help. The Demon Slayer, although he is very good in a late-game grind, as most Dwarf heroes are, the lack of armor will come into tell, and maybe that's why Gotrek went with the Thane here. It's just the difference in armor makes these guys maybe better in a late-game grind, especially against a unit like Plague Bears that has good overall weapon strength. Maybe not the best armor-piercing damage, but hits hard, especially in a surround. So there's that. It's another Infernal Gateway. Going to be doing some friendly damage, but just trying to finish off the miners, which it does. Brotherhood of Grimnir do survive temporarily. Another nice volley from the Exalted Flamer there, helping to burminate those miners. And it is pretty much coming down to just the characters. Even still, I mean, Leon has a significant value lead, but it's not too crazy. The Demonettes, though, in a surround, will be the unit that can get it done, absolutely. With that devastating flanker actually being able to count, as it is on a per-model basis. Someone mentioned in a comment recently below, and that kind of lines up with the way it feels in practice to use. Like, units with devastating flanker can absolutely goon single entities. Interestingly enough, they get like a good charge on them, and then during that time when the charge bonus is active, that devastating flanker is actually outputting a decent amount of extra damage. Depending on the unit especially, but just in general, that high weapon strength, high melee attack, fast attack animations as well, means that the Demonettes in a surround, we've seen before, regular and Exalted Demonettes can do a lot of damage against single entities. one of the best kind of anti-large units, I guess you could say. Also anti-infantry in this case, but yeah, Exalted Demonettes we've seen do something similar to like big scary monsters before on this channel, so it's definitely impressive. This Thane having a pretty bad time. It's going to get routed there, while the other Thanes manages to unify with the Demon Slayer here, which is going to be super important. We do have a handful of miners hanging around as well, so the Dwarfs are definitely not going quietly to that good night, as is their tradition. They are fighting absolute scrapping tooth and nail down to the last Dwarf, pretty much. So we're going to fast forward somewhat as, yeah, the single entity damage from the Exalted Flamer is actually pretty good here. It is trying its best to stay away, preserve that ammunition. But now we see, with single entities charging in, we've got, yeah, the Exalted Lord of Change here, Demonettes in, Gottrek's trying to hold the victory point as best he can. At least he's fighting here, but it's going to be the last stand of these two Dwarven heroes. They try and survive. Unfortunately, cycle charging of the Lord of Change will frustrate their attack animation significantly, and the Demonettes being so healthy here is definitely a huge problem. The Thane will, of course, take a bunch of damage. The Demon Slayer also, though, I mean, even though he doesn't have any armor, just the high overall damage, 36 weapon strength, decent, and with that 41 melee attack, are going to be hitting him, obviously, quite hard as well. So, yeah, Terror kicks in for the Thane, and, leadership, of course. Slayers are unbreakable, so maybe it would have been worth it in the end to have the Slayer hero. Hard to say, really. Situations like this, of course, I, as a caster, can easily sit here and question every decision because it costs me nothing. But the players in the game, stakes are obviously much higher, so, you know, it's just interesting to me to kind of speculate. Like, maybe if there had been a couple of fine-tuned tweaks on this build, I think Gotrek actually has a good chance at winning here. And it seems like Dwarfs maybe have a better chance than some other factions at actually beating Tzeentch, but unfortunately for them, the result was maybe never in doubt. I don't know. I guess Gotrek did acquit himself well there and had a few good chances, but the Gyro pick was a little bit of a rough pick from the outset. Like I said, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to see maximum Furies in this matchup, up to 6 with the summons, which we did see, and some of the Khorne and Slanesh Furies just straight up paid for themselves. Yeah, I don't know. I almost think just cut the gyros and maybe go with, again, maybe a couple of Brimstone or Trollhammer Iron Drakes. Maybe take another unit of Slayers or two to give you a little bit of tactical flexibility and some semi-mobility to protect your backline. Maybe change up some armor here. Take the armor on the Rangers and move the armor away from the Thanes and turn them into Slayers. You know, just kind of retool things a little bit here. But overall, the Dwarves did acquit themselves very well. And that's definitely interesting to see here. Just kind of value. I don't know. A lot of units don't end up necessarily paying for themselves, but against demons, you lose a lot of value to demonic instability, so it's not necessarily that surprising. Ultimately, it was really the Exalted Lord of Change that carries this build significantly. He does have a few good contributors as well. The 3 Furies I highlighted there, the 1 Demonette also that's able to get some good value there in the late game. Both the blues consistently pretty good here as well, so it's definitely interesting. Slanesh Chariots being, you know, completely useless does make this matchup a little bit interesting. If Slanesh Chariots ever get fixed or buffed to where they're actually usable, I think this matchup could get pretty tough for Dwarfs, actually. But as it is right now, Demons have some tools, certainly. Dwarfs do as well, so it ultimately comes down to the builds and how they're played, which is why we play the game, right? So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.